Hey folks, welcome back to Bullets and Brass. If you've been here a while, you know I try to keep this channel mostly non-political. I may take a few jabs here or there. I may comment on political events, but this isn't a channel that is, far right or far left or specifically pushing a particular political agenda other than the love of firearms and the education around them. However, there are times when I think that it is worth talking about. Put your comments below. Like, subscribe, please. I don't normally ask that on this channel, but if you appreciate my content, if you would like to see higher production values, like and subscribe, because the only way production value is significantly going to improve is better equipment and time. Right now, I think we are seeing a watershed moment. I think that the last year or two have been significant, and I think we are seeing something that when we look back on it 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it will be noticeably an event. Not on par with, say, the Civil Rights Movement and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but I think we are seeing something at the popular level, I don't even know how to describe it, at the general social acceptance level, a shift. And I think that shift is important. Now, I could be talking about a lot of things so far. I could be talking about gender rights. I could be talking about sexual orientation acceptance. I could be talking about the attitude of the population toward the media, the faith in the media. But I'm not. What I'm talking about is the perception and disconnect of the public at large, in general, not just any one particular group, but in general, from the political groups. I think that it is incredible what we are seeing, and it is easy to miss if you only watch the media. If you only watch the news, mainstream news, you could miss it. What we are seeing is that the population at large no longer believes that the politicians represent them at all. We are seeing a situation where there isn't a group, a large, organized group of people in the population that feel like the government actually is good, is doing the right thing. Now, keep in mind, I'm saying the government, not necessarily just the president or individual congressmen or congresswomen or senators, but the government as a whole. And historically, if you were a Democrat and the Democrats were in power and doing their thing, you were positive about it. You felt that this was beneficial to you, to your view of the country. If you were a Republican and the Republicans were in power and doing their thing, you felt that that was good. I don't think that Republicans or Democrats think that the current government really is doing anything we like. When I talk to, I am kind of central to the right, but when I talk to friends who are further over, distinctly into one side or the other, none of them feel like the government of the last 8 years, really 6 years, has adequately represented their interests to the extreme that they basically feel like they have been disenfranchised. Not that, they're idiots and whatever, but that it's actively working counter to their goodwill, to their benefit. It isn't just that, they're crooked or they're out for themselves, or It's that we look at those in power and we go, you're literally doing things that we consider so unethical and so ridiculous and so criminal if you were anybody else. But there's no repercussions. There's nothing we can do. It's legal because you passed a law saying that it was legal for you, not for the rest of us. And there's always been this to some extent. This is not new. But I think what we're seeing is this confluence of social media being able to get a message out to huge numbers of people very quickly, making it almost impossible to hide. When politicians say or do something, there's no filter on it. There isn't this, well, the guy over in Kansas is getting the filtered speech through 3 different media outlets 3 weeks later or 3 days later. No, he watched it live. Not a big rally. He literally watched that little nothing event that you went to, kissing babies at the local VFW. He watched your words live. When Biden got into it with the auto worker, that would have never made the national news, except they didn't have a choice. It was out. It was done. All of these little things that we go, how is that okay? If you did that in my company, my business, in the place where I work, you would get fired. If you did these things socially, economically, you would be a pariah. But instead, they continue to get elected because they have created a system that basically guarantees it. Because the people really electing them and running that system are them. Maybe not individually, but as a group. And it is scary because when you have this big a disconnect, it's very tough to close that gap again. Everything you do is now looked at through a filter of, well, they're just trying to manipulate me. They're just trying to maintain their own position, even when they honestly are trying to close that gap. If you have a politician who honestly is trying to represent his constituents or her constituents, how do you believe them? Which just continues this cycle and makes it worse and worse and worse. And unfortunately, the end result of these things, this situation, is usually some form of revolution. It may not be a particularly violent one. It may not be, huge civil war or anything like that. But it usually results in a relatively, how to put this politely, unfriendly change of government. I think it's ironic I'm drinking Black Rifle Coffee Freedom Roast. If you have not tried this, it is excellent. If you are somebody who doesn't like the acidity of a lot of coffees, you've got a sensitive stomach, acid reflux, try it. It is a lower acid, gentler coffee, but it's still massive flavor, absolutely delicious. I love it. Now, in particular, I think we're seeing this on the two ends of the spectrum. I think we're seeing the right hand of the political spectrum, pro-gun, very conservative socially people, look at the government and go, you're basically telling me that my opinions don't matter. Not that I'm necessarily right, but that I'm not even allowed to have an opinion. That I'm not even allowed to speak up and say, I disagree with this without being demonized. It is not how our country is supposed to operate. You are supposed to be able to have an opinion. You are not necessarily allowed to enforce your opinion on somebody else, which is what we're seeing happen. Going the other direction, we are seeing that the pro-gun community, at large, not just the pro-gun activists or, diehard, Rambo types, but the average person saying, we support gun rights, we support the Second Amendment. At the same time, the government is intentionally, not incidentally to other things, but actively seeking to destroy those rights. And we're seeing a push where the government goes, we're going to try to take these rights. And the population that's actively opposed says, no, screw off, we'll fight you in the campaigns, we will, send you a ton of letters, we will, whatever. Active opposition, not shooting kind of opposition, but like through the system opposition. But then you also have this large number of people, probably even bigger than the active opposition, who is looking at it and going, well, we have bigger problems. Why is that your topic? Shut up about it. We actually don't agree with you. Yes, we are on your side in general politically. We're Democrats or Republicans or whatever. We're on your side, but we're not on your agenda. That's not our agenda. Why is that your agenda? Because that's not our agenda, and we've told you that. You are an elected official to represent us. Why does your agenda so clearly not match what we've told you we care about? Everybody in the country is saying, what are you doing? You can't keep just printing money and spending money you don't have. They don't care because the pain from it won't affect them. They can do this, and short term it's popular, and it doesn't affect them in the long term. They're insulated from it. I don't know. I think that we are seeing a huge shift where the population actively opposes the political organization at large. They feel that they are not being represented regardless of which party they are. It is an interesting dichotomy because it's no longer the left or the right. It's the people of our country not feeling represented by our government at all. And that is a dangerous situation. It is scary. There have been times in the past where I thought we were too close for comfort to some form of, if not civil war, public violence at a scale much larger than we saw last year. And it didn't happen, and that's good. It was never, I was thinking, okay, it's going to happen now. It was always just, we're closer than I would like, right? I think that we are not necessarily closer in time right now, but we are closer in spirit. We are looking down a path, a hallway, where there's no doors to either side. There's no other path. And that's at the other end of the hall. And if something doesn't change to create an alternate path, to open a door somewhere, it worries me. It worries me a great deal. Because I don't think it's going to be, there's no organization to it. This isn't a us versus them thing where there's a clear divide. Who knows? How do you figure out what side you are? It isn't going to be a rational thing. And anyway, this was a very much rambling thing. This was off the cuff, so forgive me that it does not flow naturally and may be completely incoherent as a concept. So anyway, take care, have fun, stay safe, and, be nice to people.